I'm a morning person, so we're going to up the energy in this room and get people excited about A&S Fair, because that's why we're here. This class is all about the A&S Fair, entrance scores, rubrics. How many people here are here because they want to be a scorer for fair? How many people are here because they want to enter something in fair? And how many people are here because they know absolutely nothing about fair? But they want to know more about fair. Good. Okay, so we're going to cover everything, and I'm going to talk really fast. The first thing I want to talk about is a little introduction. My name is Aliyah. Obviously, I've been a landed Baroness, if that's what the 12 pearls are. I was the Baroness of Northwoods over COVID. I'm now a court Baroness, and I have been involved in the SCA since 2001. I have now reached the status that I went, woo, over in 2001. I've been around for a while. I got involved in the A&S Fair because after following my husband around watching him fence for almost 2 years, and I decided I needed to do something because that really wasn't exciting. I actually joined the SCA back in 1977 and didn't stick around back then. So kind of a off and on history for a while. I decided that A&S was my thing, and I was going to become the Canton's Minister of A&S. I was going to promote A&S, and how could I promote? We had regional fairs were a big thing back in those days, if I had no idea what they were and how they worked. So I entered a regional fair and got sent on to Kingdom. Regional was a wonderful experience. Kingdom, not so much. My papers came back because you didn't have to be there with your stuff, and I sent my entry with my daughter, and she came back and handed me an envelope and said, the Kingdom MOAS says don't open it until you call her. It was that bad. But I'm kind of a tough cookie, and if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to prove you wrong.
It was rude.
It was really bad. I won't go into it. It's over and done with, and we have addressed, or at least we are attempting to address that whole situation. In that the fair is a competition. So if you do not want to be judged, now we say scored, fair may not be for you. That doesn't mean that you can't support it and be a scorer, or be a support person for somebody who does want to enter it, because on the day of fair, trust me, if somebody has an entry, they need someone to make sure they go to the bathroom, make sure they get something to eat and drink, make sure they go, it's going to be okay, every once in a while. So support staff is important to people. You don't have to be the entrant or the scorer. There's a lot of ways you can support the A&S community and the A&S Fair. That being said, have I scared anybody off yet? Yay, I don't see anybody leaving. Let's start with entrants. An entrant is obviously somebody who is entering something in the fair. Fair has 4 categories to enter things in: made objects, food and beverage, performance, and research. Under research, you can have a research paper, which has to be submitted ahead of time in order to give your scorers a chance to read it, correct it, kind of like being in school, grade it, and then on the day of the fair, they will talk to you about it. A research project is something that you present in person at fair. There are made object, I think, is self-explanatory. Food and beverage is pretty self-explanatory, and performance. Performance and research are the two, I don't want to say wishy-washy, but for lack of a better word, they're the two wishy-washy categories, because a lot of things can fall into either or both. And what we are trying to teach scorers now is that if, let's say you entered a performance, and we're watching you perform, and I'm going to pick on you because you're sitting up front. I hope that's okay, I don't mean it.
No, that's fine.
And your performance isn't going to get you a high score, but you have done a lot of research, and you know what you're doing, and you know what you've talked about, and maybe you have kind of an original element to your performance, we want to suggest to you that you change your entry from performance to research project. Does that make sense? So somebody, Roanna, who's the fair coordinator, came to me at TOA and said, I have a challenge for you. Where do we put a poem that's not being performed? And my immediate thought was, well, it's a made object. Oh, but wait a minute. There's really no materials in the poem unless they write it on parchment with ink and quill, and that may not be their thing. Poetry is their thing, so it's not a made object. Where does it go? Research. It goes into a research project, because you can then score what's the history. Does it conform to what was done in period? Do they know what was done in period? Can the entrant talk about how it's different from what was done in period, or how it's the same as what was done in period? Am I making sense to you? I know it's complicated, but I kind of wanted to get that overview out of the way for you guys. I gave you a couple of handouts. All of that can be found on the Midrealm A&S Fair page. And if you look at, I think it's the rubric page, the stapled one, there is a QR code at the bottom. That will take you directly to the Midrealm A&S Fair page. So you don't have to go looking for it. On that fair page, if you scroll down, there's the rules, the explanations. If you want to host an A&S Fair, what you need in order to be, all the information you need about fair is on that page, including the rubrics, the score sheets, the welcome letter. And there's something new next year. New old. We're bringing back Pentathlon, which is a 5-entry entry. Yeah, take a deep breath. It is an all-day experience. If you are doing a pentathlon, you need a support crew, you need a pit crew, absolutely. You need people to help you set things up, you need people to help you move things out of the way, because you're still going to have a limited space to display stuff in, and you might need to change things out based on what's being scored. You need a pit crew.
And to feed you and remind you to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. And the same thing as the music.
Basically, you need a
those
retainer.
aren't necessary things.
Yeah. You need a retainer, at least one.
Yeah, at least one.
Okay, so 5 entries, but I only see 4 categories.
Correct. And you have to have items or entries in 3 of the 4. Okay. So you can double up. Now, it's not a criteria at this point, but I'll give you a heads up. Should there be a tie between pentathlon entries, the tie will be decided by whether or not the items in the pentathlon entry are tied together in some way. There will be a series of questions that the scorers will look at to see which one is better of the 2 that are the same, or the 3 that are the same, or whatever. And those are on the website under the pentathlon link. So it's all there for you. We've tried to put it all out there and be as transparent as possible. Any questions so far? Okay. So you know what an entrant is. A scorer, formerly known as judges, are the people who are going to come through with the rubrics, with the score sheets. I have given you the full made object rubric that we're going to talk about in a little bit. And I have given you 1 page of the score sheet. Each score sheet has 1 set of criteria, 1 category of criteria within that entry criteria, and a place for the judges to mark off the scores. Thank you. I've been around a long time. The scores to mark off the criteria that you have met, and to give you a score. It should be easy to score because they have the rubric right in front of them. It is now the score sheet. So hopefully that makes things easier for the scorers, and then those get turned in. It also allows you to see where you missed points, or where you lost points, or where you gained points. As an entrant, pull out the rubric that you think your entry is going to fall under and build your entry off the rubric. Don't do something and then try and make it fit the rubric. You can, but that's a lot of hard work. It's much easier to have an idea, get the rubric, and build from there. Because the rubric will tell you exactly what you need. You should be able to look at your entry and look at the rubric and score yourself. And hopefully the day of, you'll get scores very similar to what you gave yourself. Okay. Like I said, we're trying to do education for the scorers to bring them out of the last millennium and into the new way of doing things. If any of you have been around the SCA for a long time, people get stuck in the mud. I do too. We all have our comfort zones and we like to do things the way we've been doing them. Change is a big hurdle, but we're going to jump this one rung at a time if we need to. But there's a bunch of good folks working this now, and we had, I think, a really good Kingdom Fair last year. Small, but it was a good day. I think everybody left feeling good about themselves, about their entries, smiling. I know 2 years ago I had an entrant that I scored, and she did not even know that a rubric existed, so did not do well. But she listened to us, and she was one of the winners that tied for the Queen's Prize tourney at Valdez last year. So, yes! Win-win. Win for her and win for us. That's what I like to see. Let's look at the rubric. That's the one that's stapled together. As you may have noticed, there's a mistake on the first page. We used to have number 1 on the left, and you scored 1 to 6. Now we have turned it around, so you're scoring 6 to 1. We'd like the scores to start everybody at 30 possible points, and then go down and find out if they're missing a criteria in that first box, where does it then fall in the subsequent boxes, and that's what they check off, and it should give them a really clear score at the end. So take a quick look at those. First, I chose made object because 90% of what we get at Fair are made objects. So scope and historicity in some form or another is going to be in each criteria. I don't want to say complicated for scope, but in a sense that's what it is. Something simple can still have a very deep scope, in that it may be a simple object, but perhaps it transitioned over time, or perhaps it started in this area and then could be traced to this area and this area and this area, or it was first found at in this year, but can still be found throughout subsequent years. That's all part of scope. Does that make sense?
Like a spoon.
Like a spoon, yes. Did it change? Yeah. So if you look at scope and historicity, you're going to look over under novice number 1 to see what it says for sophisticated. I'm sorry about that. So project is sophisticated and complex in scope. It's completely accurate in terms of era, materials, and design. And I'm going to stop right there. Can we be completely accurate in materials? Do we have, if you're making a spoon, and it's a silver spoon, does silver have the same composition nowadays that it did in the, let's say, 11th century?
Probably not as pure.
Probably, it might, but it might not. So as an entrant, you need to know the difference if you want to score 6 in this category. And you need to tell your scorers what you know. If you haven't written it down, and I'll tell you, 1 page of documentation, I know everybody hates that word documentation, now we're calling it supporting evidence. 1 page of supporting evidence at Fair is plenty. Give us an outline of what you want us to know. Tell us the details when we talk to you. because we don't have time to read all that. We have 20 minutes to kind of look at your thing, and then 20 minutes to talk to you, and 20 minutes to score you. That's it, it's quick. So know your materials. You won't get docked for using modern materials for safety, cost, or availability. But we have to know that you substituted something, or that it's different than what would have been used in period and more. Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Multiple skills required and executed with expertise. Expertise. Did you do it well? Object is finished. Historical, geographical, and cultural evidence are presented and provide compelling and unquestionable support for the object being pre-17th century, so in our period. If you go down and look at number 2, you're laughing.
Not at you.
Oh, well,
Because she slammed the door.
It's fine.
you can laugh at me all you want.
It was not at you, absolutely not.
Aspiring is now should be seasoned, and I'm sorry again for this. Project is advanced in scope, so it's still going to have a certain depth. It's accurate in use of area, material, and design. Multiple skills were required and well executed. Object is detailed and appears finished. Historical, geographical, and cultural evidence are present. I'm going to say across the board until you start getting to aspiring and novice levels, you should have definitive proof that your object is within period. And I'm going to jump down now to the material section, and we kind of talked about that a little bit in number 1. There is some overlap. So if you look at the scoring and the rubric design across the board, there are 6 points. And I'll tell you right now, I'm advocating for 6 categories, 5 points, or just 5 and 5, and we drop down to 25 points as a perfect score, because I have a background in assessment and education, and assessment and psychology, but also education, and a clear middle makes things easier to score. Having 2 in the middle is splitting hairs. So having a 5 point gives you 3 as a clear middle and then 2 on either end, and I'm pushing for that, but until Penzic changes their mind, Midrealm probably won't, because the whole goal of the Midrealm Fair is to prepare people for the Penzic appointee. Or at least now that's become one of the primary goals. I shouldn't say that's the only goal. So you see, so we have scope and historicity. The next category is materials. The category after that is methods. How did you use the materials to make what you made? And then research is the next category. And again, same thing, 6 points, and they get progressively tougher. Speaking of tough, 30 points should be hard to get. And it is. I won't lie. But that's a perfect. And you can strive for it. I always tell people there's 2 reasons to get involved in fair from an entrant standpoint. 1 is to win it. 2 is to get better at what you do, to learn about what you're doing, to get advice, to get comments. I don't want to say criticism, but we don't learn from what we do right. We learn from what we do wrong, so that we can fix it and make it better. So those are my 2. I never went into fair. I went into fair to learn what it was about, so I could talk other people into doing it. I had one of the bad experiences in fair, which is great. Now it's a medication cop, sorry, but thank you. So I learned how that feels to be on the receiving end of not a good fair experience. I didn't run away. I kind of avoided it for a couple of years while I tried to figure out what I wanted to do about it. that's when I decided that I really wanted to get involved in the fair and change it, because I didn't want anybody else to go through that. So that's kind of what I've done. I have won fair. I have entered a pentathlon, and my pentathlon came in second, which was a shock to me, because I did not anticipate that. And oh, by the way, it was the weekend after I was installed as the Baroness of Northwood, so we can't say anything about being crazy and doing too much at one time. I told you were gonna laugh at me.
And she got installed as Baroness at our Canton's event that we were
running.
I was administrator, her kid.
That's a lack of, haha, been there.
Oh, good, yeah, so you know. Any questions about the rubrics? I don't want to read these to you. And then, of course, the last category is execution, complexity, and creativity. The creativity part becomes, performance is probably the roughest rubric. And if any of you are performers and have ideas for how we can make that one better, trying to create a rubric that works for vocal performance, musical performance, dramatic performance, demonstration of a period activity which falls under the performance. So let's say you want to demonstrate this particular Italian method of rapier fighting. That would be a performance entry, but that's a rubric that speaks to a musical performance is not going to help that one out, and one that speaks to rapier fighting is not going to help music out. So we have to, I've tried to be rather generic, and I'm thinking, and if you have any ideas of this, please, because I'm here to learn too and get better at what I do. I'm thinking of redoing and changing the performance rubric to have more guidelines in certain areas where the scorers will have to talk to each other about what they're scoring and decide, in this category, we're going to look at this, this, and this, because this is the kind of performance it is. I hate hearing so-and-so did a beautiful vocal music performance, but didn't get a 30, lost points because she was wearing modern makeup. What does her makeup have to do with her? Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I transitioned to that, because if you make a loaf of bread and you don't want it to get stale, and you put it in a Tupperware container and bring it to fair, and you forgot your beautiful wooden medieval plank and you put it on the table in this Tupperware container, should you lose points for that?
No, they should be judging the bread, not the Tupperware.
Thank you. Exactly.
But as humans, people go,
they're going to,
oh, it's in Tupperware.
because the loaf of bread 3 tables down that's beautifully laid
which
out
tastes like
with honey butter, and which also isn't period, and but herb butter is, and all that next to it, they're likely going to score better than you, even though in the made object and in food and beverage there is no category that says presentation. We are not scoring presentation. And that's something that we have to work on teaching our scorers. So, and I'm going to encourage people that if you think that that's been done to you, say something at fair. Ask, okay, so now let's step behind the scenes. Once you've been scored, your score sheets go back to a reading group, and they read through them and look for glaring discrepancies. If I scored you a 2, but I have everything checked in 5, 4, 5, and 6, why did I give you a 2? So they're looking for things like that, and they can go back to the scorer and say, hey, could you look at this?
Because when we score, we have to stick around.
Fix it, yeah. So there is opportunity to have things changed or fixed if you think that you've been treated unfairly. And I encourage everybody to advocate for themselves, or maybe somebody in your pit crew, maybe you're not the outgoing type person who's going to say, hey, I don't think you are being fair to me, but somebody in your pit crew is going to go, ah, no, you did it wrong. You need somebody like that.
2 of them that'll do that.
Hey, you know what? That's how we learn. That's how the scorers learn.
That's why, you have people come with you to dinner to tell the waitress you did not order those mashed potatoes.
Exactly. Right. Because you won't, you'll just let them sit there and
You
not
wanted
eat
the
them.
fries,
Yeah.
my
Wanted the
golly.
fry.
You wanted the fries, yep. Any questions so far?
You said that all of them are on, not just the main object, right?
Right, but they're all multiple pages.
Yeah.
And I have a printing limit per month.
I would not
Which is
expect
why
you
I
to
gave you
print
the
them out.
QR code
Yeah.
to go to them, and I didn't think everybody needed, you know.
No, we don't need all of them.
And that's why I only gave you one page of the score sheet. If you look at the score sheet, it has one criteria on it. I forgot which one I printed out. Can someone tell me? Methods?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at the methods in the rubric and the methods in the score sheet, they should be identical. And the little hyphens that indicate each aspect of the criteria have turned into a longer underline. That is a spot for the scorer to check it off. So for instance, if your object was made using historically accurate methods and tools, check. Do you have to have those tools there to get credit for that?
Shouldn't, but it might be
Depends,
You
helpful.
shouldn't, but as far as presentation goes, it would be a cool thing for them to see it. It doesn't,
So
presentation isn't going to hurt you, and it shouldn't hurt you if it's not over the top and wonderfully medieval and.
You mentioned that you made a tool to make your thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have a picture of the tool or the tool with you.
It counts.
It's
Verbal
verbal
documentation
counts.
is just as, just as important and just as
Valid.
valid, thank you, as something that's there or something that's written.
Question,
Yes,
something like this, blown glass, I
Yes.
would not be able to bring the tools.
correct. Could you bring pictures of the
Have
tools?
picture, okay, that's what I was gonna ask, pictures.
Absolutely.
Is that okay,
Yeah.
that is a modern method,
Absolutely.
but having a
Blown
couple of pages there or
glass is not
something.
modern.
I know.
Okay, but your tools are modern.
Depends on what you want.
How did they differ from the tools they used in period?
Marble, that's why it's called a martyr table, most of the time now it's stainless steel.
Okay, and
So
you're
you
using
point that out.
stainless steel or you're using a marble slab?
This one was stainless steel.
Okay.
So you
But-
would point that out.
But you
so
just
know,
told me how it
and-
was different.
Yeah,
I can't dock you for using the stainless steel because you know that they didn't use it and you told me that, or I shouldn't. And if I do, you should be, you know, not yelling at somebody, but gently
Pointing
saying,
out.
hey, yeah, you know, maybe I think I deserve this point over here.
So like, back to the bread, if we're using a modern oven to bake it, we won't be docked. Okay. And although we know that the flour probably would have been ground either on a wheel or with a mortar and pestle.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Would you have ground your own flour?
Actually, my husband and I do have a,
Did everybody in Midrealm
not everybody,
period
no, there
ground their
was,
own flour?
they, and that's why they had millers.
Right. Do you know how Pillsbury put that flour in that bag?
No.
Do you know how the miller in your town put that flour in his bag and how he got it to? Probably not.
General idea, but you know.
Yeah, you know he ground it and now it's in a bag.
Yeah.
Do you know the protein content of the flour? Do you care?
Not really.
No. For an A&S fair, you might want to know how modern flour differed from, and that's really easy to find, especially, I'll tell you, because one of my entries for my Pentathlon was a loaf of bread, which is why I used bread as an example. King Arthur has amazing historical information on their website.
Okay.
Yep.
Which brings
And
us
they
to
have
another
some
question.
more period flowers.
And they
too.
do have some very period flours, like, yeah, their unbleached white is very period in protein content and feel.
So that brings us to another question regarding documentation. Websites.
Yes.
I'm gonna say like Wikipedia, is that or?
So supporting evidence is looked at, used to be looked at as primary, secondary, and tertiary. What does that mean?
Primary, I would assume would be an extant object.
Okay, but
Like a
you
piece of
didn't
cloth
experience
from
the
the-
extant object, but your friend went to
True.
Norway and took a picture of the period object and brought it back for you. Does
That's-
that count as
that's-
primary, or does that count as secondary?
I would count that as probably as secondary, because you did not
So
actually
she
review it
has just
yourself.
pulled you into the
That's
academic
why it's
argument
different,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
primary, secondary,
cause I have a picture of
Internship.
the actual object.
which is why we
That's
have
the only thing
changed
that
our
exists for one.
terminology
Right.
to say direct
Yeah.
and indirect. That photograph is direct evidence of that object. Her coming back and telling me about it, probably more indirect, because I don't have anything that actually shows it. For an address that I put together, I used pictures that somebody else took of a, thank you. All I could think of was eulogy, and I knew that wasn't the right word. Of an effigy that they had seen when they were over in Europe. And they did wonderful pictures for me, like they pointed at a button on the sleeve with their fingers so I could see the size of the button relative to the finger. I'm sorry, that's direct evidence. I didn't take the picture, but I know who did. And even if I don't know who did, if it's a picture from a museum website, as a score, I would count that as direct evidence. Wikipedia, that's gonna score for me. I'm gonna put that down in the notes.
Don't use Wikipedia, go to the sources in the Wikipedia article, click on
Gotcha.
them, and now you have a better
Yeah,
resource.
It's a
I was
jumping
gonna
off
say,
It's a jumping
it's a
off.
good jumping off point, and it's a good place to get pictures
So
if
it's
you can document where that picture came from. 'Cause they
Directional,
do-
not to be used.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
use it. No, it's kind of like when you were in high school and they told you, yeah, Encyclopedia Britannica is like informative, but yeah, I'm not going to accept it as a resource.
Okay.
But it is a good jumping off point, and the bibliographies and the resource lists that some of them have are really good. Stay away from Pinterest.
Oh, God.
If there was some way I could turn Pinterest
You
off on
can.
my online
When you
no, it
search,
doesn't work.
Say minus and you just type the word Pinterest.
It does not work.
Sometimes works.
It does not work.
Google doesn't
never
want
use
it to
that.
work anymore because Pinterest pays them too much money.
Yeah,
That's true.
It's a thing. Libraries are still a thing. If you have a university in your town, if you go and you talk to
Or just
them
email any
and tell them that you are a member of the SCA and doing research, if they don't know what the SCA is, if you explain it to them, some universities will grant you access to their libraries. And there's a lot of stuff online now. I know it used to be kind of, don't have too many websites. The websites are getting better, but you have to vet your websites. If it's just some random guy's blog about something, maybe that's like Wikipedia, a good jumping off point. Look at what he says, look at where maybe if he says where he's getting his information from, and see if you can track it back. Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. We're doing good for time. Any other questions? Any questions so far? Any questions? Is there anybody zooming in?
We have
Yeah,
about a half dozen Zoom participants.
Any questions from the Zoomers?
this is just a wonderful change. I'm
Will you write the Zoomers' names on the sign-in sheet?
No, I think we can just do a rally. Okay. I want to talk a little bit more about the Pentathlon, because I'm excited about that. I think we're all kind of excited about that. It's a lot. I said that earlier. I think finding a link to your objects, aside from giving you a step up because you took my class, and you know this if there's a tie in scores, it will make that an easier project. And first, when you start to think about it, you think, oh God, I gotta tie all these things together.
Like
That's
Antoinette's fishing line.
Yeah.
Everything she did was, she made a fishing dress, she made a fishing pole, she
Made a
baked
fishing
fish,
basket.
3 different ways that they were cooked, in different ways that they were cooked, and made them 3 different, so everything she did was related to fishing. And that's how she became the fishing Laurel, because her pentathlon entry was entirely, all 5 of them were fish related.
I love the SCA so much, a fishing laurel.
Like,
Where are you gonna hear those words together?
That's how I learned about the first bait
Because the
people
chicken
used was
laurel.
bread that they chewed up, spit out, put on the end of the thing, and caught fish with. And she teaches children to fish that way at Penzic, and they catch fish at the pond.
There's a whole Facebook group for SCA.
My Laurel was
Yeah.
elevated for Latin smack talk.
I love this. I love this so much.
Yeah.
If there isn't something that interests you, you're not looking hard enough. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
I do have a question. Is research scored on what can you do with this research, or what can you make with this research, or what is this research good for?
You're talking about the research category?
I think so, yeah.
So the research category, for instance, is a paper. If there's something that interested you, you can do a paper on it.
Or a project.
I'll get there, I'm talking paper first. And that paper has to be submitted. Now, our scores, a lot of them are in education. A lot of them are in higher education. And we'll tend to look at your paper as if it were at least a rough draft for a master's thesis. They are supposed to be looking at it as if it is a high school paper. So somewhere between a 5-paragraph essay and a 30-page paper. What I would like to think, and the way I've written the criteria and emphasized the criteria for a research paper, is that you need to have the 5-paragraph essay set up. You need to have an introduction. You need to have a body of evidence. You need to have some extrapolation, some conclusion, some kind of how it all applies, how it works together, and you need to have a conclusion. So there has to be a structure to your paper. The transitions from each element need to be, for a high score, smooth. You need to have things spelled correctly. You need to have things grammatically correct, at least as far as you are able. Can you have your paper edited by somebody else? Absolutely. Give it to everybody who you can get to sit down for 30 minutes and read it. And then I would put at the end of your paper a thank you to everybody who edited, so you're giving credit where credit is due. They're not part of your entry, but at least you're giving them credit, and you're saying, yes, I had help with this, and that's okay. They can't write the paper for you. And that's why we ended up with a research project, because there are a lot of people who don't do well in school, who don't do well with paper, and we want to be inclusive of them. So here's a research project. Tell me everything you found out. Come to the fair and talk about it. Have pictures. You can have a made object, but we're not scoring that as a made object. It's just there to uphold what your research, what you found in your research. Yeah.
Like Elsbetta's project last year, where she was testing out the how dye-fast
yes.
different silks were
Yes.
under different conditions. It was almost a science fair project.
Exactly.
Basically, kind of, yeah, that's research.
Yeah, and that's a research project. And I have absolutely no problem seeing one of those 3-fold things standing there with pictures on it. I got docked for that on my first Kingdom one, because that's how I display stuff. I had actually my entry was soaps in the Middle Ages, and it was the transition, or the beginning of milled soaps, and what happened, which is taking a soap that's already made and making it into something else. And yeah, I was told it looked like a science fair project
For children.
for children.
In her.
But I think or some kind of a display where we can see things is lovely.
Judge Lucason's display on like all the different ways that the knife can go into the pit, like how it the bore thing, the whole butcher thing, yeah. And the thicknesses of the.
So absolutely. So there's 2 different aspects to research: paper and presentation, paper and project. Did I answer the question?
No.
No. Okay.
I think
Ask it
they're
in a different way.
Yeah, I think they're looking for sort of, when we score one of these research entries, is its usability, or its like what can be derived from the research. Is that part of the score?
I'd say look at the rubrics to see exactly how it's broken down for scoring. I honestly have done so many of these, I don't remember off the top of my head, I'm so sorry. We're not looking for anything in particular other than, if this is what you found out, yeah, what can you do with it, or what did you do with it? Either one would be fine. I think from a yay, rah, rah. I'd rather see what you do with it, because that could be more inspiring to people that are seeing it. This is so cool, look what I did, here's what I found out. But it's all up to you how you want to present what you found out.
So comparing that to the bread thing, history of bread is just as knowledgeable and valuable as like specifically, say, sourdough loaves.
You're really interested in bread, but you can't bake to save your life. Tell me all about bread.
All right,
That's a
so
research project.
the history of bread would be
Sure.
valid as well.
Yeah.
Instead of just, this is how you
could
do
write it up as a
sourdough.
paper, or you could do it as a
Okay.
presentation. Good luck with that, by the way, because documentation on bread is
Well,
not one of the easy things
I
to
was
find.
going back to something that we had already talked about.
Yeah, no, I know.
Same thing
So
with
it's-
spoons though, that example wouldn't work either.
No spoons, cones, yeah.
So the research, can it be research just for the sake of information, possibly even entertainment? My area of interest is the Sultanate of Women, and I am currently working on researching and writing the paper on it. What are you gonna do with that? Nothing, it's just informative. So is that, would I be docked or?
I would say no. I think that's, I'm fascinated to see where you go with that. That sounds really interesting. I would say when you have all your research put together, maybe like what did that change history? Did it change politics in the area? Can we relate it to something modern even? That's where I would go with it. That's what I would do with it, is what did we learn from it? What did we learn from what happened in history? So that's what you do with it.
I almost feel like that's a scope, the question that from Zoom is like a scope question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the sophisticated scope for research is the focus is precise and well articulated with clearly identified, detailed, and thought-provoking goals. Historical, geographical, and cultural evidence are presented and provide compelling and unquestionable support for the topic being pre-17th century. That's what you are looking for.
Thank you. I don't have that.
That's why I pulled it.
at
I'm
my
like-
fingertips. I
I pulled
appreciate
it.
that. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, so does that help?
I also sent them a link to the research rubric,
Yeah.
Okay,
and I haven't yet got a response.
okay.
They're probably reading it.
Yeah, and please don't, I'm not trying to avoid answering that. I don't have the rubrics memorized because actually I have probably 4 different versions of them in process right now with trying to tweak things. We won't, I don't think we're gonna change any, if we change anything for
This one's full of
2026, it will
Gs.
be minor. I'm gonna try to get rid of the Gs.
If we have questions beyond this class, where's the best place to go to get
The website, or me, or Roanna, or
you answer little?
I can get used to them. Don't ask me. I don't think
You don't want your own mother's information?
She
How
knows where
very,
I am.
how very dare.
Oh, I can walk across the living room and knock on the door.
I mean, I guess.
Or throw something at her across the
Are there
living
any
room.
other questions? Anything I didn't cover that you want me to cover?
Do you want Zoom people to have your info?
Absolutely, you can share with people on Zoom. Do you want me to hold it up to the camera, or? you can do
I'm
it?
typing it into chat, just
Okay,
making sure
that
I'm
works.
typing it correctly.
They can also reach me through the A&S website. Roanna is listed as the fair coordinator, and underneath her are all the deputies, and I'm there as the criteria deputy. And I do, as of last month, have access to the email that's there. So if you were one of the people that emailed me back in May, there were 2, I apologize. I did answer you in September when I got access to the email, but I do check it regularly, about once a week.
Do you mind if I steal your idea?
Oh, absolutely not. It's all
I mean,
yours.
obviously mine isn't gonna be camels, it'll probably be eagle eyes, but
Yeah, well,
She has a bunch of houses too.
Thank you.
if that's everything, I don't have anything. I do have eagle eyes, but I also have that.
oh, the Hamsa,
If anybody else
yes,
wants one.
protection, of
These are
course.
protection if they're gifted. So,
The person that asked that question has also posted What motivated the question is some people have assembled wonderful catalogs of research, I'm guessing, but gotten dinged because the scorer wasn't able to figure out what to do with it.
I think that's a scoring problem, not an entry problem.
Fair, and I think some of it is we have face-to-face scoring in Midrealm,
Yes.
so you can direct the scorers.
Correct. And again, we're trying to educate, and we can only account for Midrealm,
Yep.
so, yeah. I don't have anything else. I can let you go early.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you guys at fair. I will definitely be there.
So,
Yeah, if you guys want, if anybody has an entry and if they want help with it, absolutely, I am totally willing to help, at least be a part-time mentor to you, help you look at rubrics, answer any questions. I'm here. And I'm available. But I'm not cheap.
Price to move.
not cheap, but you can be had.
Exactly.
So I do, excuse me, 16th century food and beverage also.
Okay.
Obviously, I know that the nuts inside baklava would have been ground using a mortar and pestle.
Mhm. But you used a food processor.
Exactly. However, if I were to picture of, because I do have a mortar and pestle, I'm just not, I'm crazy, I'm not stupid. Not that crazy. If I were to take a picture of a small amount at least of nuts and put that in my documentation for the food, would that be helpful and supportive in the scorers?
That's gonna totally depend on your scores. Some scores are gonna say, it's lovely that you did that, but this was not made with that.
Gotcha.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's a potential.
I like to see comparisons between what was used and what would have been
I would-
used,
Honestly, you
and
want,
why that choice was
you
made.
wanna actually score high on something like that, do two very small ones, one done in a mortar and pestle, and compare it to one done with a food processor, and see how the textures are different.
Or
Oh,
even
you're
do
gonna
both of them ahead
challenge
of
me,
time.
I'm gonna end up, if I'm doing that, I'm gonna end up making my own yuff cut too. I guess it's time
Well, they
to bite
did,
the
didn't
bullet
they?
and,
And again, you have to look at things like,
yeah, they couldn't walk down to
you
the
know, we
store
think
and
everybody
buy.
made bread. They didn't. A lot of homes in certain
They're
areas
bigger.
and certain.
They didn't,
Bakers are
they
less
didn't have
dangerous.
ovens.
Yeah.
A lot of homes did not have their own ovens.
Correct.
You would take your wheat, have it ground by the miller, take that then to
Or
the
if you didn't
baker.
have wheat, you
and-
would go buy the wheat to make your own bread. if you
Yeah.
had
It's
that.
something
Or
I
you would
was
just go buy a
looking
local
for,
bread.
Yeah, as a bookbinder, every comment I got was, well, did you make your own paper? No, because the bookbinder does not make paper.
Correct. One of
They
the
bind the
reasons I
book.
left the SCA back in the 70s was because the group I was starting to get involved in had a whole bunch of women that were like, here's the sheep, shear it, clean it, card it. I was a student at U of M. I lived in an apartment with 3 other people. I didn't have room for sheep.
Well,
I don't want to keep
Sheep
sheep.
to shawl is an ambitious project, but it's not necessary.
No, it's not, and that's
Because-
something that you need to, again, as entrants, make sure your scorers know what they're scoring. If it is sheep to shawl, tell us. If it's just the dyeing of the wool, you bought wool but you dyed it, and then somebody else made this for you, and you can enter that shawl.
Yeah.
But you're entering the dyeing of the wool, because that's what you did. Make sure the judges know that, so that way they're not judging the fineness of the thread or the construction of the shawl, they're looking at just the dye. And you need to have supporting evidence for what kind of dye you used, is it period, is it modern, does that make sense? I'm not trying to make things complicated, I'm trying to,
It helps keep your
Break things
scores
down
on
for you.
track, so
Yes.
they understand, just look at this.
I made a knife. I really want you only to look at the metallurgy part of it, because that's my focus. So here's all the metal stuff, and I can't talk any further about that, because I know the word metallurgy is nothing about working with metal. But that's what I want you to look at. I don't want you to look at the handle. Yeah, the handle, I'm not a wood carver, I'm not a bone carver, the handle's rough, I know that, but that's not what I'm having. I want you to score the blade. You can be that specific. The made object is not the knife, the made object is the blade. So when you enter, that's where naming your entry can play a big part in how it's looked at. and it looks like we have people waiting for the next class, so let's clear out and let them get set up. Thank you again so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.